Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine on ESPN Radio 1230. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, we're back. Football season is in full swing in every way possible now. We got the NFL, we got the college football, we got the high school football. We have all kinds of fall sports going on around here that we can talk about at the end of the show. We're going to jump right into the high school football, and then we'll talk college and NFL. I mean, it's Football Monday, I guess, in the nation. Anyway, so Friday night, you got to see all of the Barren County game. I got to see half of it, and then I saw half of the Glasgow versus Monroe County game. Let me point this out real quick. It's a rarity in this community for our two high school football teams to play at home and win at home on the same Friday nights. Just through the years, I mean, that's just been the truth of the matter. And I think it's a great thing that we're seeing Barren County win some football games. Obviously, it's a great thing to see Glasgow win some football games. I hope they both can continue throughout the season. I would also say this, though. Overall, well, I'd say Barron's probably played a tougher schedule, even though it, traditionally wouldn't look that way. Woodford County is probably better than anybody Glasgow's faced so far this season. But their real tests, I think, are down the road. For Barron, it'll be Greenwood coming up. For Glasgow, it'll be South Warren. Barron, their district will be tough. I think Glasgow's district will be kind of soft except for Taylor County. And then they'll finish the season against Franklin Simpson, which should be, I imagine, in fine form by then. They're showing sparks so far, but they have a young team. They're getting around to it. I figure by the time they play them in week 11, that'll be a real test too. So let's start off with this Barren County game. The Trojans jumped on Adair, sort of like they did Metcalf and sort of like they did Woodford. Then their offense kind of stalled out, and they managed to hold on really and kind of get a touchdown at the end to get a good enough lead. What are some things you saw in that game, John?
Well, I mean, they got to win, and they needed it.
Yeah.
I mean, after coming off the Woodford County loss, Barron needed a win. Mm-hmm. And they got one, 26-14. And I thought they played well early, mm-hmm. and then played well late. And they really stalled in the second and third quarter.
Yeah.
But, got off to a 20-0 lead. And to be honest with you, I thought it was more likely than not when Barron was up 20-0 that there'd be a running clock. Then the game tightened up and being this close. It looked like total domination.
Yeah, I'm with you because Adair didn't do any. They looked like they couldn't do anything in the first quarter and a half.
And Barron's first three drives were touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean just marched it down, and it just looked like to me that just looking at two teams, this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah,
kind of like the Metcalf County game. But it stalled out, and give Adair credit. They found their rushing game in that mm-hmm. second quarter and third quarter, where they did not pass the ball well at all.
No,
but they did get it going, and we kind of got out of sorts there in the second and third quarter. Just did not have any type of rhythm going. And it got within 20-14, and Adair had the ball. They had a chance to take a lead, and we got to stop and finally score a late touchdown to get to margin. So, from just the Barren County football perspective, any win's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we've had a tradition of winning a ton of games, so that's good. Adair has beaten us the last 2 years.
Yeah, that was a monkey they were getting off their back. Really.
Even though, to be honest with you, I thought we were probably better, mm-hmm. Especially last year.
Oh, yeah.
But nevertheless, Adair's only win was against us. It was 20-19. So to come back after the Woodford County loss, in which we didn't play very well, and Woodford's good. Woodford came back and they beat I think Bourbon County Friday night.
Yeah.
Was a good win, and our Barron sophomore quarterback continues to play well. Jamison Bowie, he was 13-16 for 175 yards.
Yeah,
kid's very accurate. I think Coach Jackson's doing a good job. Coach Arnett is doing a good job with managing his throws. He's not doing a lot of running, and he's not putting him in a lot of bad spots.
He is asking him to get the ball to Holloway and to Bush,
short, quick passes,
those guys, and let them kind of do the work for him.
That's right, and which is smart, for a sophomore quarterback. Holloway had 2 more touchdowns, had 90 yards. I thought Tyler Bush played well.
Mm-hmm.
He made one of the better defensive plays that I've seen in a long time, where the fullback got loose against us and it looked like he was going to score. I mean, it was a 55-yard gain, and Tyler came from behind. And not only did he come from behind and tackled him, he came from behind, and like you see in the pros, he came and slapped at the ball, knocked the ball loose, and recovered himself. I mean, Tyler's just a really, really good football player on both ends. The negative to the game was the loss of Gavin Withrow.
Yeah,
he
and that was in the first quarter.
Yeah, no, I really didn't. We didn't sit in the booth, and but he ends up, I think, breaking his clavicle or whatever. So he's going to be out, and that's a tough loss. He starts on defense, plays a lot of offense too. He's a kid that can make plays, and so that and Barren has been quite fortunate the last couple of years of avoiding injuries,
right,
in football. So. All in all, you anytime that you can get a win against a team that, even though we should beat them, I think we just have more. Be honest with you, have more playmakers.
Yeah.
We played well at times, and at other times we just kind of stalled out. I don't know if we lost our focus or just give Adair County credit. It's one of the two, but a win that we needed.
I'll say this about the Adair County team that I saw on Friday night. I thought they were more talented than Adair usually is. I thought their struggles were their lines were not too great, offense or defense especially. I mean, Barren was just blowing through the offensive line in the first quarter. And the quarterback was pretty shaky.
He's a senior quarterback. He's more of a runner.
Yeah.
He just has trouble stretching the field.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they're limited, but I actually thought they were better than they looked in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I thought the second, third, even into the fourth quarter was more like the Adair team we'll probably see.
In fairness, they had played Russell County close.
Yep.
Lost only like 3 or 4 points.
Yep.
Campbellsville ends up beating them probably 4 touchdowns. But
Campbellsville may be the best 1A team in the state, or second best.
They're in the top 5.
Now.
Yeah, they're number 2, and they got beat by Taylor this week.
Yeah.
But Taylor's good. But so that's so it's a good win for Barren. They needed that after the Woodford County.
Yeah,
and they'll. I think we'll have to play better to consistently better to beat Monroe at Monroe.
And we'll get to this here in a second. Okay, so 2 weeks in a row, you saw Monroe 2 weeks ago when they played over the Trojan Trail Turf War in the first game against Hart County. Came from behind in that game to win, I think 40-22.
Yeah,
and then they played Glasgow on Friday night, and I got to see most of that game. And the first half, Monroe was giving Glasgow some problems. Eventually, Nick Mitchell took the game over. And there was one play that I thought set the tone for everything that came thereafter. Monroe had punted down the ball at the 2-yard line. Glasgow runs the play from their end zone. They're running kind of a pistol formation, got an up back, and Nick Mitchell's behind Tanner Abernathy. He hands the ball off to Mitchell. Abernathy hands the ball off to Mitchell. 3 guys basically met Mitchell at the goal line, and he ran through one of them fully, and the other 2 just didn't get their hands on him. Round up being like a 40-yard run before it's all said and done. Should have been a safety. It was a 40-yard run.
He looked like Ezekiel Elliott.
He did. I mean, he punished the guy trying to tackle him. I mean, it was. You can see that on my Twitter feed if you want to go look at it. That's J Brown ESPN KY if you want to go track that down. It was an impressive run by him, and the game was more or less over with after that. Yep. I mean, I think Glasgow was already up a couple of scores, but I mean, that was it. Yep. Monroe's chances to get back in it. And so Monroe is doing some things well, but we kind of go back to when Billy Joe Murphy was here. I mean, he said he has good starters. He has no depth.
Yeah, their numbers are down.
Yeah,
they're in the 30s, and then I've seen Monroe at 50 to 60 to 70.
Yeah, I think one year I counted 72 on their roster.
and I feel bad for Billy Joe in the sense that every year he's coached, he said everybody has injuries, but it just depends on who's injured.
Yeah,
and right now.
Georgie Brooks
is probably their most dynamic playmaker.
Yeah.
He's out with a foot injury, and he didn't play against Glasgow. I doubt if he'll play against Barren. So that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And Glasgow ended up putting 57 up on Monroe. Yeah. But Monroe was competitive for a while. But Glasgow's, they're good. They're solid. They're physical. Mm-hmm. especially for a 3A team. Their size, they don't look like a 3A team. You know, they got numbers and size and so forth. Nick Mitchell makes you physical. He's a physical runner. He's not, he's fast enough, but he's not a blazer.
Right.
And, you know, you just look at his stats every game, he'll have 3 or 4 touchdowns. He had 4 against Monroe, 118 yards, and they're limited its carries right now because they're blowing out people.
Yeah.
You know, they've not had a real close competitive game for 4 quarters yet.
Yeah, they're spreading the ball around. Abernathy's running a little bit. Hunter Scott's getting in the game and running quite a bit, doing a good job.
Yeah, it'll probably keep them fresher as the year goes on, and they're going to need those players to play 4 quarters eventually. Yeah, Abernathy was 10 out of 12 for a couple TDs. So you know, Glasgow is doing about what you expect. You know, they're 3-0. LaRue was a good test, but Glasgow handled them.
Yeah.
Russellville may not win a game.
No,
they got beat by Butler County, who had lost like 20-something in a row.
Yeah, they had the longest losing streak in the state, I think. 26 in a row, I think, is what they've lost.
Warren Central's born at. They're at 40.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. They've all, but Butler has not won in a couple years.
Yeah.
And they lost to them. So, you know, Russell County's not very good, obviously. Monroe is down, still competitive. Glasgow get a little bit more challenged this week with Allen.
Yeah, that's right.
Allen struggles to score a little bit, but they are pretty good defensively, physical, and their schedule's been rugged. You know, they just they led Greenwood most of the game until Greenwood scored late to beat them.
Yeah.
But they've also been to Harrodsburg, where they played Mercer County up there.
That's right.
And then a good E-Town team.
Yeah. They have picked a rough schedule to start with. And Brad Hood kind of joked with us about that. You know, he's like, we want to play strong competition, but
they got it.
He goes, we don't back away from anyone, but sometimes some things are more than you meant to bite off.
Yeah,
and but his point was also scheduling. The reason they were playing in that bowl against Mercer County was trying to find games early in the season.
Right.
So that was one of the problems he was running into.
And Glasgow Allen has always been a pretty competitive game.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in these last few years when Glasgow's been really good. They've had their hands full with Allen.
Yeah. It'll be a good test for them. They will probably, I'll guarantee they'll see the best defense they've seen so far this season, including LaRue. Now, as you pointed out, Allen's offense has really struggled, and in that game against Greenwood did everything it could possibly to help Allen County win that game, and Allen still couldn't score enough points.
One of Allen's points was a defensive touchdown, interception return.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Greenwood piled up like penalties bad in the first half, had turnovers, bad snaps. I mean, they did everything possible.
Yeah, Allen's teams. One thing with Coach Hood, they get better. They get better as the season goes on. They're always physical, and his really good teams, the teams that got to the finals of 4A, could score. Yeah, this team they struggled the last couple of years with having those big playmakers and scoring, but they'll be well coached, and they won't be scared of Glasgow. Right. But I think Glasgow's too good. I think they've got too many weapons. They'll pound Mitchell, and then throw the ball when they need to. And Allen will have a hard time scoring against Glasgow's defense. Yeah,
Glasgow's defense I think is as good as I thought it would be because their front four is just they're experienced veteran players. They're big and strong. They're aggressive. One thing about Glasgow's defense this year, I mean, when a guy's getting tackled, there are 4 or 5 people there. So I mean, they're swarming to the ball. They're playing hard in the ways that you want to see. I mean, nobody's backing off. And go back to what you said. I mean, Nick Mitchell sets a physical tone on the offensive side, and that seems to translate through the whole team. I don't know if he's the initiator of it or if the defense is, but they're feeding off each other right now physically. And back to the Barren Monroe County matchup, I think that's something that if we were to look at Barron's struggles, I mean, they've won 2 of 3 games, so it's odd to say struggles, but in the Woodford County game, Woodford was pretty physical, and they had some problems with that, I thought. Yeah. Especially defensively.
Yeah.
And so Monroe will try to be physical with them because that's, as you mentioned, they're a physical team, and that's going to be something Barron's going to have to get better at as they go through this season, I think.
And I think they will. I mean, this is I just think Barren has too many playmakers this year for Monroe. I mean, they can score from a lot of different places, and as I said, I really like the quarterback. I mean, Pettit will throw it from. Monroe threw it about 40 times against Hart. Yeah. But Barren is the one weakness that we've had at times is stopping the run, and that will be an area that we'll have to do, because I have a feeling, I think you're right, especially with Brooks out. I do think Monroe's generally kind of balanced, but I do think that there's 3 game films that they'll see, so I do think they'll try to run it, and it's going to be hot over there Friday. It's going to be really hot. So I think Barren will have to take that away from them. But I just think that they have too many players for Monroe right now.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup, and the Glasgow Allen County. I think both of the games will be interesting.
Yeah, and Barren get a win, 3-1. I can't remember the last time we've been 3-1. It's been a while.
Yeah.
From the Barren perspective, it's been a long time since they've been 3-1.
I would ballpark guess 97. I don't know after that.
Yeah, I'm not for sure.
That would be, I think, Daniel Bird's junior year or something like that. They were 8-3, were they that year? I think was their final record. They were in a district with Owensboro and those guys.
Sounds right.
That's going way, but I'm going way back.
Yeah,
just off the top of my head.
That's 98, 99.
Yeah, I may have missed something since then, but off the top of my head, that's just
3-1 is not a record that I can recall. To be honest with you, it's been a while.
Yeah,
be nice.
Yeah, it would be. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag on ESPN Radio 1230.
Well, John, a week and 2 days after all of the rats had jumped off the WKU ship, I guess they tried to swim back to it on Saturday, because the Hilltoppers picked up a win at FIU, Florida International. I always have to stop myself and remember which one's International and which one's Atlantic. But anyway, at Florida International University. And the thing about it was the defense made a goal line stand to save the win.
Yeah, well, the defense played like they were supposed to. I mean, it's their strength of their team coming back and it was 20-16 win, and you're right, it was because of the defense making plays late in the game.
Yeah.
And you hate to say it, every game's different, but if the defense played anywhere close to that against Central Arkansas, Western would be 2-0.
Yeah, here's another thing I would say, though. Your offense can't basically be dead for a half and expect your defense. I mean, you should be better than Central Arkansas.
You should. With a 3 touchdown, you don't give up 3 touchdowns in the last quarter.
Right. But my point is like you can't keep putting your defense in situations and expecting them to bail you out all the time. And basically, week 1, the defense didn't bail the offense out. Week 2, it did. And my point is like I'm still not convinced that Duncan is the quarterback at any point in time. I mean, he throws the ball fairly well, but it's a touchdown and 2 interceptions each week. So those are giveaways. He had a fumble. They didn't lose it. They had another fumble that they managed to get back on. So I don't think Helton has found his quarterback that he needs to run his offense. But I'm still wondering what's wrong with Ty Story that he transfers from Arkansas and he's not the starter. So, it leaves some pretty big questions on the offensive side of the ball as far as quarterback play.
Yeah.
Now, the running back, Gage Walker, I think is his name.
That's 2 straight 100-yard games, right?
Yeah. Now he looks like they found their running back.
Right. Well, I'm happy for Coach Helton. I genuinely like him. I like what he's doing. I think they're probably a year or 2 away till he gets his system implemented.
Oh yeah.
He wants an offensive system that's similar to what it was with Brom because he coached with him. And right now they don't quite have the personnel, but he's adjusting to it.
Yeah.
And I trust him with either figuring out the quarterback play or finding one, whatever. Right. But that was a huge win, to be honest with you, because they were staring at possibly 0-3 if they lost that one. Mm-hmm. And it's I said last week it's hard to conceive them getting to that 6-win mark by losing to Central Arkansas. Well, now they kind of stole one back, a game I didn't think they would win. Right. Going down to Miami.
You and no one else, right?
To beat them on the road was that's a quality. That's a really good win for Western. That really helps them, sets them up going into the Louisville game this Saturday.
Oh yeah,
and it's a lot better going into the Louisville game off of being 1-1 and 0-2.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to the point about Louisville. So Louisville comes back. They win their game against Eastern Kentucky. Was it 38-0? I think was the final.
45.
45. Yeah, I mean it was a lopsided win.
They did what they're supposed to, which they could not do last year.
Yeah, I mean this is what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Well, last week actually. I mean Louisville has to win the games that they're supposed to win in the manner they're supposed to win. And they can't have them scrape by and all that kind of stuff.
And that's after a late Monday night game with Notre Dame. They came right back, took care of business. Their quarterback, Jawan Pass, I think he had 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Didn't throw it a lot. Only threw it like 19, 20 times. But he played well, and they took care of business. And it's not that they scored 45 or whatever. It's they didn't allow any.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a team in the country last year that couldn't score on Louisville.
Yeah, for real.
So, whatever this guy, Satterfield has done, he has completely changed their attitude.
Yeah.
And the culture has been a tremendous shift from a team that I couldn't stand watching because they quit.
Yeah.
To a team, I saw it against Notre Dame. They fought and they played with discipline. They didn't have a lot of penalties.
Right.
And so whatever mojo he has about turning cultures and players, it looks like he has done that.
Yeah, he seems to be the real deal in that way.
Right.
We'll see if he's the real deal on the recruiting side, which I'd say that he probably is because, at App State, he got really good players come there and play at a place where most of them probably couldn't find it on a map.
And that sets up Saturday. That should be a good game between WKU and Louisville.
Yeah, down in Nashville.
Yeah, down in Nashville. And it looks like, just by judging Louisville's two games, that Louisville will be a favorite. They should be.
I think it's 8 points out the gate.
Yeah, okay. They should be a favorite, but the way the Western went down and got the win against FIU, I think that gives that game looks more winnable than it did beforehand. I still think Louisville will probably win, but I think the game should be a good one.
What I think is interesting about the game is I think it's a matchup of two things that they both do well at this point. I actually think Louisville's defense is pretty good, despite the fact that Notre Dame ended up pulling away in that game. Notre Dame's more talented than Louisville, and you could see it as that game went along. But I actually think Louisville's defense plays pretty well. And I think WKU's defense against FIU proved that it was everything we thought it should be. We'll see if that carries through, but I think it will. So I think we got two good defensive matchups. What I also think we have is a case of Juwan passed through 5 touchdown passes, but I'm not sure he's a very good quarterback in terms of throwing the football.
I think the jury's out on him.
Yeah, now running the football, he's pretty good,
right.
and he was real good against Notre Dame early. Once Notre Dame kind of riddled him out,
right,
he really couldn't do anything anymore.
Yeah,
they took away everything he could do.
Yeah, I still think quarterback play is a question.
Yeah,
no question. Probably for both teams.
I would say so.
The other thing, though, I think both programs are headed the right direction.
I would say that's true too.
I think both first-year coaches have done an amazing job with turning around attitudes, expectations, or whatever. And I think Coach Helton and Satterfield I'd give them an A right now.
Yeah, if you look at last year, WKU found ways to lose games. Louisville just decided not to show up for most of the season after the first
Western
couple of
didn't
weeks.
quit.
No, they kept playing hard.
Louisville
They just couldn't win.
Yeah, and they weren't exciting.
Yeah, no, they were really boring.
They really were, and lost a lot of fan interest and stuff like that. I think right now, I would think both fan bases should be quite not only pleased but optimistic.
I would agree with that. You can hear that game Saturday on Sam 100.7 in this area. We broadcast all of WKU football and I think men's basketball on that station, so you don't have to miss any of that if you can't be there. Meanwhile, the University of Kentucky has won their first 2 games, but we don't get to find out the answer to whether or not Terry Wilson is a quality quarterback because he got knocked out of that game that they won Saturday. And now they are faced with a Troy transfer, Sawyer Smith. I think about 3 years ago, whenever Stevie Johnson came into play, and everybody was convinced that he was not the best quarterback of options that Stoops had in front of him. And, he was not going to be an NFL quarterback, but he proved to be a winner as a quarterback and a good team leader. And this is going to be the question here. Is Sawyer Smith that kind of guy, or is this you were playing the right guy to start with, and now you're just hoping things work out for you?
Yeah, well, we'll see. It was that's I was not a huge fan of Terry Wilson as a thrower,
right?
But he's a winner.
Yeah, he is.
He was their quarterback last year, and they won a bowl game in 10 games.
Yeah,
and seems like a real high character guy too. So it's a tough loss. You know, he kind of got tackled from behind, got his knee bent back, and tore ligaments in his knee.
Yeah, I think it was a horse collar flag, wasn't it, on the play?
Yeah, it was. So he's out for the season, and that's a tough loss. Now, I will say Sawyer Smith came in and threw two touchdown passes. Mm-hmm. The first pass he threw was a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he has experience. He's not like a freshman that's never played. He's a transfer from Troy. Mm-hmm. Troy is a good football program.
Yeah.
They play good football, and he obviously wanted the bigger lights. Well, he's got it.
Right.
And
here you are.
And here's Florida staring at you.
Yeah.
So, you know, beating two MAC teams, Toledo and Eastern Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky did what they're supposed to. Those are, decent teams, but, the stakes gets higher. With
Mm-hmm.
Florida coming in after Kentucky broke that losing streak last year to Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's going to come in on a mission, and there'll be a lot of hype for this game.
Yeah.
And the question will be, is Sawyer Smith, can he handle that? I don't have any doubts. He looked like to me he can throw the ball.
He looks like a better thrower than Wilson, but he's obviously not as good an athlete.
He's
Wilson's
not. So you never know until they're under the fire and these type of lights. Florida's physical. Kentucky has obviously got off to a good start. They've got dynamic running backs again. Mm-hmm. Defensively, they've been okay. Not great. They lost a ton of talent on the defensive end. And
you can see the talent that they lost on defense, I think, more even than you can on offense. I mean, I know Benny Snell was an outstanding running back, but I think Josh Allen is having a pretty decent early start to his rookie career. I think
you can see it in the pros. Running backs are more easily replaced than defensive ends and secondary play as Kentucky has. So this is a big game for Kentucky. If they can knock off Florida, they're staring at a really, really good year, because there's some bad teams in the SEC that they'll play. Arkansas is bad. Yeah. Tennessee is as bad as I've ever seen Tennessee. Vanderbilt's not very good. South Carolina is okay, but so this could be a huge win for Kentucky.
Right now in the SEC East, there are three decent football teams by the looks of things.
It's the haves and have-nots.
Yeah,
and in the SEC, 4 teams are in the top 10. LSU may be as good a team as in the country.
Man,
LSU is Alabama, Georgia, and who is the other team in the top 10? Is it Florida? Is Florida in the top 10?
Yeah, they may have.
Auburn. No, it's Auburn. Auburn was in the top 10. Yeah.
Auburn did not look as impressive Saturday.
They got a good win against Oregon.
Yes,
but they did not play near as well against Tulane.
Yeah,
but the SEC's got really, really good teams and some teams not so good.
They're dumpster fires, really.
But that's probably true of most conferences, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's rare to see, like going back to the East. I mean, we have Georgia, Florida, and we have Kentucky. The rest of the SEC East looks really bad.
Yep.
I mean, like bad in ways that you don't expect from SEC teams.
Right.
Outside of Vanderbilt, a lot of times.
Right. Tennessee is. They need a lot of help in Tennessee.
They're ready to just evacuate Knoxville and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, losing the way they lost to Brigham Young. That game was over too.
Yeah.
They're up they're up 3 with 16 seconds to go, and BYU's about 110 yards away on 4th down.
Right.
And they let somebody break wide open for like a 70-yard gain and set up a field goal. I mean, it's almost impossible to lose that way.
Hilltoppers fans should be sending them notes of condolences and that kind of stuff, because they know what that felt like last year.
Yes, yeah.
Well, this is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag on ESPN Radio 1230.
Well, John, the NFL season officially began on Thursday of last week, and we saw a barn burner between the Packers and the Bears. Not really. What was the final? 10-3. It was great.
Yeah, not a lot of points scored. No. Yeah.
The Bears' defense looked good. Their offense looked awful. The Packers'
defense looked good.
Yeah, and their offense didn't look that great. They may be missing Reggie Cobb, but
no,
you don't think?
No, that's not it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Maybe they have no running backs. Maybe that's the real problem.
I think it was more playing against Chicago's defense. They're really good.
Yeah, Khalil Mack was all over the place, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think Green Bay offense will be fine.
Yeah. Now, and then Sunday, we saw some fantastic games. I think one of the fascinating things that came out of Sunday, two things really are wrapped together. We have two sophomore quarterbacks. We have Baker Mayfield, who spent the whole offseason telling us how great he is. And we have Lamar Jackson, who I think did not hear from so much other than maybe some charity work that he did in the offseason. And what we saw on Sunday was Lamar Jackson was killing the Dolphins, and Baker Mayfield was basically being killed by the Titans, no less. And one of the things I took from that was, first of all, I took from this, the Ravens have Lamar Jackson, and what they did is they said, we're going to design an offense that takes advantage of his best skills. And he didn't really run the ball. The best thing was they set up a running game, and they ran play action off of it, and he has some pretty decent receivers. And one thing he can do is he's got a big arm, and he can throw the ball deep. And he threw some great deep balls, some great deep cuts or in routes or whatever. And they just torched the Dolphins. The Dolphins may be the worst team in the NFL. I don't know, but their defense looked atrocious against the Ravens. And so we'll have to see whether, what happens next. And then meanwhile, the Browns basically let Baker Mayfield, at least in the first half, throw the ball all over the field. And it didn't go very well. And in the second half, they started running the football, and their offense looked better. It's like you had these two coaching staffs that took totally different approaches to having these sophomore quarterbacks, and the Ravens' approach looks to be the better one of the two.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
One game out of 16 is kind of hard to I just watched the NFL so long. Things change so quickly. Mm-hmm. I don't like to make big generalizations. I am happy for Lamar.
Yeah.
Huge fan of Lamar Jackson. He's an incredible career at Louisville, mm-hmm. and he's a definite weapon if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
He could always throw it. All people have to do is go watch Louisville games. He can throw it long ways. He put up great numbers. I'm not for sure the Miami defense is much better than some of the college defenses he's played against, but I'm thrilled.
Right there with Tennessee.
Thrilled for them, and you are right. They have tailored their offense. Even their backup quarterbacks are similar to them.
Robert Griffin came in through 5 passes. He was 5 for 5.
So they're going to be a running play action team. It's going to feature Lamar's skill, and if he gets hurt, they got not only Robert Griffin Jr., but they got the quarterback from Penn State, McSorley, who's really good. Plays that similar way. Cleveland, anytime there's too much hype on a team, in the NFL in particular, they struggle, mm-hmm. especially early.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any doubt. I think Cleveland will be good. I think Baker Mayfield will be good. They were not yesterday. Tennessee, I believe you go back last year, I think Tennessee opened with a win against Kansas City. They are really good opening games.
Oh, yeah.
And they just went in there and to be honest with you, the score got lopsided because of certain things. 2 interception returns, I think, for a touchdown, at least 1. 2. 80-yard screenplay by Tennessee. I think Tennessee will be fine. Do I think Baker Mayfield is better than a Tennessee quarterback? Yeah, I do.
You think he's better than Mariota?
Yeah, I do. But I like the Tennessee coaching staff. But I think that was I think overall Cleveland will be good. I don't think they're going to live up to their hype because they got too many explosive players, and too many players that I think are more meat people.
Yeah.
And but I do think Cleveland will be okay.
Here's the thing: despite the final score, I'd actually say that Cleveland's defense was still as good as it was last year. They looked good for most of that game, but like you pointed out, they didn't give up. I think 12 of the points that were given up there were returns, for touchdowns. And that game was like 15-12 when the Titans hit the screen pass, and that broke the game open right there. And that was late in the third quarter.
It was. So it was a little, the score was not real indicative of how the game was played. The most impressive thing that I saw was again New England.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't shock you.
They dismantled the Steelers.
33-3. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady, 3 touchdowns, 360 yards at 42 years of age.
Yeah.
Just complete. They made Pittsburgh look lethargic.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, it made them look helpless, like they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it really was. Pittsburgh should be one of the better teams in the league, and they look.
That was a scary. If they were supposed to be, that was scary.
They look pathetic.
Yeah.
And just the system New England has is it's an amazing system that Belichick has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can win by running it, throwing it. Defensively, they were not very good last year. Got better this year. They look tremendous.
Oh yeah.
And Josh Gordon, who's been out of football, probably 3 out of the last 4 years with all kinds of issues. He looks like a tremendous player. Now they went out and got Antonio Brown basically on a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
Probably the best receiver in football. Guarantee all his crazy actions everywhere else, you won't hear a peep from him at New England. If he screws up one time, he's gone. They don't need him. They just showed if they just showed him, we don't really need you.
Yeah.
If we'll like to have you if you want to play with us, but if not, we don't have to have you.
Yeah.
So I mean, New England is the most amazing team that. I think they're the best sports team in all sports, just how they do things. I also thought Kansas City and Dallas were good.
Yeah, I tell you what, I thought Dallas's all-around game plan looked really good.
Dak Prescott probably made his earned his $35 million a year salary.
Yeah,
400 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Game.
Or 4 touchdowns, 400 yards. He's playing for a contract. I think he's probably going to get one in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right there. That's another team. I mean, look, they took talent that they brought from outside, like with Amari Cooper last year, and Jason Witten comes back. I mean, because he.
And they drafted well.
They did. Their defense looks really good.
All the stuff about Jerry Jones that people, they draft really well.
Yeah.
Their linebackers and defense are good. Their offensive linemen. Dallas is going to be. They're for real. The Cowboys, America's team. And I like Dallas growing up, but they're going to be. They're good. I think Philadelphia's good. Dallas is good. Kansas City's good.
Yeah.
New England, borderline great.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kansas City can get up there with them too. There's some, and I thought Arizona looked dead in the water.
Oh yeah,
and give that rookie quarterback credit.
Kyler Murray.
I mean, they were down 20 in the fourth quarter and came back and ended up getting a tie in overtime.
I will point this out about Kyler Murray. He looked exactly like all the things I thought he would struggle with early in that game and even late in the game. But as long as you have Larry Fitzgerald on the field and you can throw it in his general vicinity, then you've got a chance. He proved that with Kurt Warner. He's proved that with all kinds of quarterbacks who have come through Arizona through the years.
He didn't prove it with the last one.
Well, I mean, maybe that guy didn't throw in his general vicinity.
Well,
was that Josh Rosen?
Josh Rosen. That's
well, he's not. Yeah, he's not good. Anyway. But, I mean, look at that. He had that catch, the one that set him up for the touchdown that tied the game.
Great play. Yeah.
I mean, the ball was not in the right place, but he made. I don't guess it was in the right place. It was in Fitzgerald's general vicinity, which I guess is the right place.
Yeah, if Larry Fitzgerald is polar opposite of Antonio Brown.
Yeah, he is.
You talking about humble, works hard, just plays, never complains.
Yeah.
Team first.
Yep.
Antonio, just the opposite. I love New England. I love their system. But I am disappointed they signed him. You're almost awarding somebody who just completely trashed, I think, team sports in general.
Is this not the Patriots way, though? I mean, they will take on just about anybody.
Yeah, they will. But and he'll be fine with them. I don't like rewarding, I guess is the word, for what he did.
Yeah. I didn't want to see him play this year. I wanted to see everybody just walk away from him because you're right. He's made a complete spectacle of every team he's been a part of. But also, I mean, either he's a mad genius and
nah, he's not a genius.
He's just
I've heard
mad,
that too.
huh?
I've heard that too much. No, I don't. I just thought that maybe there'd be nobody just say, listen, we don't want to fool with it.
Mm-hmm.
New England did it right. If you're going to do it, just give him a 1-year contract with all kinds of incentives.
Mm-hmm.
But I would prefer basically people just go, listen, if you're going to act like that, we don't need you.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing that stands between the Patriots and their efforts to win. I will say that for certain.
That is true. That is true. They are.
That is a kind of a disappointing thing about them sometimes, is that despite everything, there is nothing that stands between them and winning, and they have proven that they will do pretty much whatever is necessary to try to do it and try to win. And I guess, meanwhile, I can appreciate all that they do and the coaching and everything and what you see on the field, but their institution, as in a general sense, kind of disappoints me sometimes. That I don't really like some of their approaches and stuff. But hey, I guess if it works, and the sole principle of the NFL, and it is to win football games.
I like them in the sense that I like, because New England, they have structure and they play smart players. Now, the one time, where they got caught video and another team, I don't like that.
Yeah.
The deflated balls is a joke. I don't care.
Yeah, that
was nonsense. Nothing to that.
Yeah.
But just amazing team.
Yeah, and I will say this. There was a whole little program about them getting their trophy before that game against the Steelers and them celebrating Robert Kraft. That kind of... I actually turned off the TV on that particular point and waited for the game to start, because I really don't want anything... like I said, the institution of the Patriots kind of bothers me sometimes. What they do on the field, I have a great deal of appreciation for. Listen, Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back to talk about some weekend sports.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag on ESPN Radio 1230.
Well, John, there were a couple of All-A Classic events that went on over the weekend, and Glasgow's back in the All-A. One of the things that they were involved in
Don't get confused. They're in 3A in football.
Yes. We could do the whole classification discussion yet again.
It is, for a lot of people, it is quite confusing. How can you be 3A and 1 and single A?
Even for some coaches, I think.
Oh, it's mind-boggling. It is. It's kind of confusing.
Well, and it is. I mean, because the All-A is its own organization, and at the bottom, population-wise, I think 222 schools are in it, or can be in.
And they can move it up to 500 if they want.
Yeah, they could set that bar wherever they want.
Everybody but Trinity and St. X.
Pretty much, yeah. They might start excluding DeSales and those guys as well these days. But hey, but anyway, so that's kind of how that breaks down, and then the KHSAA sets football classifications. So now that we're past the preliminary and rudimentary need to explain this every time, the Glasgow boys and girls soccer played in the All-A Regional this weekend, which basically was a pair of games over at Russellville is what it broke down to. The Glasgow boys beat Russellville and 3-2, I think it was, and then Todd County Central 9-0, and then the Glasgow girls beat Todd County Central 3-2, I think, 1-0. I'll get these right here in a minute. They beat Todd County Central 1-0. I don't remember what the score of the Russellville game was. It was pretty lopsided, though. Their reward is they get to go to a sectional, and this Saturday they host Owensboro Catholic in the All-A sectional. They win those games. They get to go play in the state tournament. What's that?
Is it here?
Yes. The girls' game is at 3 o'clock at the soccer complex. The boys' game is at 5 o'clock at the soccer complex. These will be real tests. I actually think the Todd Central girls aren't too bad this year, apparently. And the Russellville boys might be a little better than I thought they would be. They lost to Barren 6-2 last week, but it was a close game for the first half.
Aiden Niken had 5 goals.
Yeah, he just took over in the second half.
He's having a heck of a year.
Yeah. The breakaway basically equals a goal for him once he gets focused on the game.
But both girls and boys for Glasgow has done well, right?
Yeah, they are. They're both cruising right along so far during the course of the season.
Oh, Owensboro Catholic's a different level. They're similar to Bowling Green Greenwood.
Yeah, their girls are right there with them. Now, the boys sometimes aren't as good, but the girls are always one of the better teams in the state.
Right.
So that's going to be a real test. Either way, it's going to be a real test for both of them on Saturday. And then in golf, they had the All-A state tournaments in Richmond this past weekend. The Glasgow girls finished second as a team, and then Abby Lee tied for third, along with Connor Gerald's over at Monroe County, who is quietly having a good year on the links. And then the Glasgow boys finished 7th in the All-A state tournament. The individuals were on down the list for them. I don't remember what their scores were, but I think their lowest score, they tied for 14th. Drew Richardson, that's who it was. He tied for 14th. So good runs there over the weekend for them. And
I need to change the name from All-A.
Yeah, they do.
Like, call it the 140.
140.
Or whatever
the bottom 222.
Yeah, but don't put bottom. Just
the last 220.
No, just whatever it is, 220.
Right.
We're putting in the 220 or whatever because the A's are confusing.
Yeah, Glasgow beat Russellville 10-2, and Scott Zettlemore, the girls' coach for Glasgow, tells me that the game's been pushed back to 4 and 6. I know we're supposed to have a pretty hot weekend coming up. You were already mentioning this.
Yes.
I
don't know if 4 is going to help.
Yeah, it's supposed to be sweltering this coming weekend. As a matter of fact, I guess all this week.
Yeah, I think tomorrow 96.
Yeah, welcome back to the summer after that brief visit to the fall.
Friday night will be pretty hot for most football games to start if they can start at 7. Now at 7, things cool down at 7 this time of year, but still it's going to be warm.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought maybe the heat we had dodged it, but not this week.
Welcome back, right?
That's exactly right. And of course, the rules with football are different from the rules. Anytime you wear helmets and pads, the what you're allowed to play in heat is different from none.
Yeah.
Like soccer, I think heat index it's anything under 104 they can play. Mm-hmm. Football is 99 and under.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't, because used to the football was it the same, wasn't it? Wasn't it 104 years ago?
Nope.
No. Oh, it's always been lower?
99.
Well, I did not realize that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, I think about this a lot of times growing up. I'd always play basketball in these outdoor courts down in Mississippi.
Right.
All right. We'd get out of school at 3 o'clock, 3:30, whatever on Friday. We'd be out at the courts by 5, 4:30. We'd play till they had no lights.
But back then you were acclimated.
I'm guessing so.
No, you were. I mean, I was too. I mean, I'm not now. I can't go out in the heat now because I live in an air conditioning all the time.
Yeah, I need to carry an ice box with me.
But that's the way most people are today. You got air conditioned cars. You have air conditioning at home most places. Kids are inside more than they've ever been inside. Mm-hmm. So when if you grow up in the heat and you're outside all the time, it's not that big of a deal. But if you go from cool to hot, it is a big deal.
So then we should be spending more time just running around out in the heat.
If you're going to play an outdoor sport, one of the ways that you can be better prepared is to spend more time outdoors. Yeah,
but I'm with you on the whole. Also, as you get older, I think you have a harder time just dealing with the heat.
Well, you work inside, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and I assume the vehicle you drive has air conditioning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, the vehicle I drove originally did not.
Yeah, mine neither. It had 255 air conditioning.
There you go. That's right. roll your windows down and go 55. That's right.
That's right.
Well, that's the big difference.
Yeah, but I'm guessing maybe we'll get the games in. I would, like you said, the football shouldn't be interrupted because usually by 7 o'clock it's cooled off enough. Whenever we have these bowl games back in,
they're starting at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's why sometimes those get messed up.
That's correct.
But yeah, by 7 o'clock usually you don't have a problem. But you're right, that 4 and 6 on Saturday may not make it. That's going to be an interesting. And as a matter of fact, I think a lot of teams have. If you see like 5:30 or whatever on the schedule for this week for these outdoor sports. You might expect them not to start till 6 or 6:30, I would guess.
I agree.
Just because of the heat index, that kind of stuff.
They are required by the state, rightfully so,
yeah,
to keep that and to monitor it and so forth. It's for everybody's safety.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be inconvenient, but being healthy is more convenient than not.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's already been a report of a kid who died at a football practice before the season started. Was not in Kentucky, was it?
I don't think so. Right.
But I mean, we've already had some of these reports early this year, so even the greatest precautions that people are taking are not always 100% effective.
Right.
Because some people have medical conditions that are not revealed until the body is under a certain kind of stress.
That's correct. And high schools have to play they're governed by the state of Kentucky and high school rules.
Yeah.
Little leagues are not.
That's right. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's. We'll be back next week, and go enjoy yourself a Big Mac.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
This is WCDS Glasgow, ESPN Radio 1230, your total sports leader.